Mike Gundy traditionally has a recipe for success in Stillwater, both as a player and as a coach. Most of that is predicated upon the Cowboy culture. Four-star defensive end is perfect for Cowboy culture. His best chance of success is in God's country, Stillwater, America. And winning the genetic gene pool lottery definitely doesn't hurt either.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X, @AllDayo State. Today, we're brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Get squared away with Game Time Tickets today. Meanwhile, we get to talk some foosball and specifically about maintaining this top 25, top 30 class. Numerically speaking, we've had some advantages, but we've also been able to bring some guys that not only fill holes, but could be fairly good indications on how quickly they'll contribute. Again, the days of building up somebody for 3, 4, 5 years, it doesn't really work anymore in today's NIL transfer market era. And part of the Cowboy culture is obviously based on this season's transfer class. And Oklahoma State has always prided themselves on having the ability to develop from within. See, words are hard for me. And on top of the development, you have to be able to get somebody that you know is going to be able to excel both physically and scholastically very quickly. Ben Duncum fits all of that. And he recently had his visit to Oklahoma State and admittedly didn't really know much about Stillwater. He had assumptions, and then he grew up in Lake Travis, Texas. So he has some understanding of what Stillwater America is. But even then, only being a few hours away from Stillwater, he had an assumption of what Stillwater is, and now he realized that it is considerably different. It is a college football town that eats, sleeps, breathes, and you know what? Oklahoma State. We bleed orange and black all day, every day, and whenever you're having a family-oriented style of recruitment, Oklahoma State is the perfect fit. Now, of course, Ben Duncum, he's a 4-star on some classifications. We're going to go 247 where he's a 3-star, but because I wanted to do the 247 thing, because I just want to talk about the fact that Oklahoma State, according to him, is the leader in the clubhouse now in recruiting over the likes of Wisconsin, K-State, Kentucky, BYU, Cal, Houston, Maryland, Oregon State, UNLV, Utah, Washington State, and several others. He has over 30 offers of the Division I variety, and he recently got to visit Oklahoma State. Now, here's the fun fact. Not only is he uber talented, not only does he play in one of the most competitive areas in the state of Texas, he's been on the Dave Campbell watch list as one of the top defensive ends. He's currently ranked as the number 4 defensive lineman in the entire state of Texas. This would be a massive ordeal, in my personal opinion, if we can snag this individual, because this is a Brock Martin style of get. Somebody that you know is going to run a locker room, you know is not going to have any issues off the field. They're going to take everything seriously in the weight room, the nutrition room, scholastically, because he's got a good head on his shoulders and he understands what his mission is. His mission is to get himself to the next level, much like a significant number of his family members. We did see his mom riding bullet around Boone Pickens Stadium. So naturally, we see the athleticism there in Mama Bear Duncum. But his dad played 4 years at Texas as a starter and was also 6'4", 231 pounds. His uncle Bobby Duncum, 6'3", 236 pounds, also played 4 years at Texas, then became a professional wrestler that was very famous, especially in the South. And his brother, Bobby Duncum, 6'4", 220-pound SMU defensive end from not too long back. Whenever you're talking about some of the guys like Malik Charles, who have that NFL pedigree that you assume is going to be able to take things at an enhanced level and absorb them and make the most amount of sense physically out on the field, that transitionary period is not going to take very long for somebody like a Ben Duncum. And Wisconsin has always been able to find some of the best defensive linemen in the country. I think Kansas State has done a very good job over the years of maintaining that position of strength as well. But Oklahoma State is different, and this is beautiful for us. This is another individual talking about how Stillwater is significantly different than they had imagined coming in. And Sports Illustrated's Taylor Skeens just did an article on Ben Duncum where he got to sit down and ask him some questions, an interview style. So I wanted to break that down. One of the first things he was asked was obviously about his mom riding the horse around Boone Pickens Stadium. He said that she loves horses. She rode them when she was younger. She asked the staff if she could ride a horse in Boone Pickens Stadium, which is likely the first time that has happened. And if you watch the video, it's not like she was just meandering about. She was getting it. She was smooth. She was up in her saddle. It was obviously the athleticism, being from the state of Texas. This makes sense. He was surprised by his trip to Stillwater, but this 6'5", 260-pound absolute beast can play inside. He can play outside. Physicality might need to step up a notch as he gets to college, but his attack angles are borderline flawless. So even when they try to double team him, triple team, the way that he creates space is by taking angles so well that nobody can even get to him. So he's in the backfield before the quarterback hands the ball off a significant amount of time, which is why he has over 30 Division I offers. Oklahoma State being at the top should be the common consensus, right? More often than not, when recruits get to Stillwater, they realize it is entirely different than anything they had in their head. Yeah, it's a town where you can focus on football. You can focus on scholastics. And you know what? It's not too hard to enjoy the scenery around the campus either. So Taylor got to break down some of these conversational pieces. He said, you're one of the top defenders in all of the 2026 class. What has it been like dealing with the recruiting process? He said the recruiting process in the beginning was not very active. Then in February, things kind of heated up, and he had a lot of interest heading into it. Taylor did a very good job in the spring game. He had 6 sacks and 2 tackles for loss alone, double-digit tackles this previous season. I think from a sacks and tackles for loss perspective, it's absolutely phenomenal to see what he can do. Here's another thing that Taylor asked. He said, you recently made an official visit to Stillwater. Can you give us a brief breakdown on your time on campus and what impressed you the most? Mr. Ben Duncum said, Oklahoma State really surprised me with the facilities and the campus. I thought nothing was really out there. I was wrong. The facilities are crazy. I was expecting to be a little bit more closer to average, but they really went all out for their players. You still have another year at Lake Travis, asked Taylor. Are there any early front runners that have climbed up to the top of the list? He said, Ben Duncum, I wouldn't say that there's any front runners at the moment yet. Oklahoma State definitely caught my eye and is the team to beat. We're trying to maintain this top 25 recruiting class, not just off of the numerical advantages, but off of the meat and taters section. Ben Duncum is the meat and taters. And once again, this is absolutely perfect for the recruiting that is happening. This SEC NFL system that Todd Grantham has installed in Stillwater is going to be something that's going to attract this level of talent. Once you get them on campus and they get to experience what it is, then it makes sense for us to be the leader in the clubhouse. Some recruits want to get out of where they're from and they want to go to the big cities and they want to be in LA. They want to be, at USC or Michigan or whatever. Some people are all about their business and they want to go somewhere that has a track record of producing NFL level dudes. Even if they came to Oklahoma State as a 1-star, 2-star, we always will have an advantage over every other team in the country. And that is Rob Glass, the strength and conditioning coach, is the best in the country because he gets paid what he's worth, which is $1.1 million. Nobody else can say that because nobody else produces the results that he does. So if you take somebody that's already 6'5", 260 pounds, he's already on that high 3-star, 4-star, potentially a high consensus 4-star when it's all said and done individual. If you can get that dude, that's solidification of the class, and yet another individual down there in the heart of Texas that can help Oklahoma State recruit and get the word out there that, hey, your perceptions of what Stillwater is and what Oklahoma State is probably not exactly accurate. You need to get to Stillwater to have this experience. If you're looking for the big city lights and the glamour and the glitz and the fun parties, it's not Stillwater. But if you're looking to be about your business and get the most out of your college experience to get to the NFL as quickly as possible, Oklahoma State is one of the best in the country, definitely one of the best in the Big 12. And we're trying to lock down this Big 12 recruiting race. We've done more in NIL this year than we ever thought we were ever going to do. And now we know that if we do these yearly concerts, this NIL figure is going to continuously roll in. So if you're a productive individual that values family, that values work ethic, that values being about your business, Stillwater's the perfect fit. Ben Duncum seems to be all about his business and to be all about that life, and that life can be right in Stillwater, America. Speaking of life being right, you're going to want to get tickets to watch Mr. Duncum in action. You're also going to want to get tickets to see the Oklahoma City Thunder take down the Indiana Pacers, hopefully for what should be a big title season. But in order to do that, you have to have the best in the ticket game, and Game Time is the bee's knees for all of your ticketing needs. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their absolute ever-loving minds. It's the kind of atmosphere that you absolutely need to experience live. And this year's matchups are already delivering all of that. Of course, the Thunder and the Pacers are doing their thing. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to tip-off, with last-minute killer deals, panoramic seats, view, the no-surprise fees at checkout. Game Time is a total game changer. You're going to be able to see the differences between Game Time and everybody else. All you have to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $28 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCollege for $28 off. Download the Game Time app today. It is last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Get with the bee's knees of all of your betting needs with Game Time tickets today. All right, now we need to keep it rolling here. Oklahoma State Cowboy basketball coach Steve Lutz got somebody that was on the top 15 European 2023 NBA draft board, and he's had successful professional years overseas since then. But now we're having some difficulty, seemingly, getting him on campus. And all we can say there is you better figure it out. All right? You better figure it out. United States government, we got to have our big dude. We got to have this individual to make a run. Lefteris is the guy that we've been missing, Montezukis. And whenever you have that NBA pedigree and you factor in the fact that we have Anthony Roy coming in, who's probably an NBA-level dude as well, averaging almost 26 points a game this previous season at Green Bay, that's a potential NBA-level guy. So if you got an NBA-level guy outside, you got to have an NBA-level guy inside. Mekhi Ragland showed up ready to rock and roll. Ben Ahmed seems to be ready to go, but those are young individuals. Robert Jennings is not exactly somebody that you're going to have to be able to rely on for NBA-level play all the time. So why is this being an obstacle? Well, apparently the visas and overseas stuff is kind of crazy at the moment. But we need Montezukis to get to Oklahoma State. I don't care what number he wears. I don't care what position he plays. We've seen some instances of this in and out game flourish, right? If you go back to the Michael Cobbins, the Brian Nash, Marcus Smart days, and in fact, in Markel Brown there as well. Athletically, people had to respect us all across the court. And whenever you have Kanye Clary, who averaged 16.7 points a game at Penn State before getting injured last year, Mississippi State, this is a mixture of dudes that have been dudes all over the place. Victorious Miller was a dude at LSU as a true freshman. Kanye Clary was a dude as a true freshman, right? These individuals have previously shown the ability to average 15 points a game, 17 points a game, 16 points a game in the SEC, in the Big Ten, in the ACC. And now Lefteris was doing something comparable overseas against grown men. So this is a grown man that's been playing against grown man that is now kind of sidelined to some degree while they figure out the visa thingy. Now, this is going to be a travesty if this doesn't get done soon. I feel like it probably should, because the government, I hope they understand that there's a difference between somebody coming to the country for a work reason or a leisure reason, as opposed to coming for a scholastic and athletic reason. And we do know that the president does love college athletes. We know that he loves Wyatt Hendrickson and Oklahoma State Cowboy specifically. So maybe he has a hand in this, or he can have a hand in this. And if he does, somebody needs to let the dude know we got a guy. All right. We got a guy who can be an NBA dude, who can take Oklahoma State back to the postseason, not the NIT, the actual NCAA tournament, and potentially make a little bit of a run here. We've got a pretty solid roster. Last season was all about athleticism, was all about trying to get tenacity to show up on the defensive side of the ball. We knew we weren't going to be very explosive offensively, but I think the objective was to create enough chaos that we kept ourselves in games. And as you saw the season progress, we actually got better. That did not happen under Travis Ford. It did not happen under Mike Boynton. Could they recruit top 10 guys and NBA level dudes? Absolutely. I mean, look at Kate Cunningham. Look at Marcus Smart. Look at Lindy Waters. I mean, you could even go back to some of the old school dudes, but we do have a pedigree. We have a reason for recruiting. That is why Steve Lutz took the job. That's why Steve Lutz turned down a massive payout from Texas A&M just a few months ago to stay in Stillwater. The Henry Iba, Eddie Sutton tree does mean something to him. The way that you go about your defense and your work is important. When you're putting up shots, you have to be calculating what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you can fix it, how you can be more physical. Now, I think all of us would love to see Steve Lutz pull an Eddie Sutton and put these dudes back in shoulder pads and helmets for a couple practices. But nonetheless, Steve Lutz coaches that away. And he's not going to, inspire some of the prima donna types to come to Oklahoma State. Yet we are in a position that if we can get this visa thing figured out and we can get the dude that can be a dude to Stillwater, America, a.k.a. God's country, and rock the America's brightest orange, we're going to have a shot to not only make a run in the Big 12, and in my opinion, we'll finish in the top half. Even if you don't get Lefterus on campus, we have enough talent that has previously put up massive numbers at SEC Power 4 level schools that had injuries, right? So if they recover and go back to what they were as freshmen or sophomores, we're in for a surprising season. The X's and O's we clearly know is not going to be a problem. The issue this last year was making shots fall. Shot selection wasn't always bad, but here's the kicker. If it was a shot selection was bad and you did it a couple different times, sometimes it only took once, you were pulled out of the game. And that's something we didn't see with Mike Boynton is, whenever people would make repeated mistakes, he wouldn't pull them and put somebody else in. That is something that Steve Lutz does not mess around with. And yeah, he might rub some people the wrong way at times, but so did Eddie Sutton. Eddie Sutton was a disciplinarian. He was a defensive guru. He did not play favorites. He did not play games. If you were not doing what you were supposed to at any point in time, you were going to get chewed. You were going to get ran. You were going to get sat. It was what it was. That's how Steve Lutz conducts things. And the only question was recruiting. Well, he's answered that. You got 4-star Ryan Crotty, averaged 42.6% from the three-point arc. That's absolutely insane. So Steve Lutz is re-raising the expectations. And we're talking about recruiting in football and getting a guy like a potential 4-star consensus defensive end. The recruiting acumen in Stillwater should not change across multiple sports. We just won a national championship in golf. That is the expectation. We just won a national championship in cross country 2 years ago. That's an expectation. Tennis, played for a national championship a couple years ago. Baseball needs to get its stuff right. All right, that's a problematic area at the moment. But Steve Lutz is not having issues. And it appears as though there's still one more spot to fill. The difference between anticipating this season and the last few seasons, to me, feels light years different. But one of the biggest missing pieces is a stretch four that was a 41% from the three-point line. And if we recall correctly, at one point in time last season, I don't know if it was quarter way through, halfway through, whatever, but statistically, there was an article written about him last year, and at that time, he was literally shooting 50.3% from the three-point range. So is he your traditional big? No, but if you look at a Chet Holmgren type of guy, that's what Lefterus is. But he also has the ability to distribute the ball pretty well. He can drive, he can dish, he can dunk, he can shoot, and he's been playing professional basketball for a few years. I still don't fully comprehend how they let people play professional ball against grown dudes. Some of these dudes have bounced around before in the NBA, G League, so on and so forth. How do they let them play against that level of competition but maintain their college eligibility? I don't get it. But I don't care as long as we can get the dude from Greece to Stillwater, Oklahoma, permanently, at least for the next 4 or 5 years. We have a couple NBA level dudes, but I think Leftrus is the piece that can pull it out of all of us. We get to shift gears again to another popular sport, but of the girls' variety. Cowgirl wrestling is currently top 5 in recruiting. Now, they still fall under the designation of a club, but this, I think, might be more evidentiary proof that this needs to be a recognized thing by Oklahoma State University. Factor it into Title IX, whatever you have to do. But Cowgirl wrestling is actually going out and recruiting wrestlers that have been dominant in high school. So the idea that girls wrestling is turning into something could be more solidified, in my opinion, if Oklahoma State were to make this an official, recognized NCAA style of sport. And the NCAA has some things that they have to do as well. But, whenever you look at Oklahoma State wrestling, I think this goes deeper than just cowgirl wrestling. Jordan Burroughs, who's an absolute Olympic legend, college legend in the sport of wrestling, recently was talking about the benefits to Oklahoma State is at 5 years old, you could be wrestling, you could be learning from the Oklahoma State system, and then you can grow up through that, through the RTC, and you can continue developing. Then you can go to Stillwater High School or another local high school around the area and continue that development. And then you can go to Oklahoma State, compete for national titles, compete for Big 12 titles, compete for individual national championships. And then you can stay at Oklahoma State, just like Dayton Fix did, just like Wyatt Hendrickson and Dean Hamady Jr. are doing at the moment. You have Zahid Valencia coming over. You have some of the best wrestlers, Roman Bravo Young, from the heavy hitters, the Iowas, the Penn States of the world, coming to Stillwater because Jordan Burroughs is dead on accurate. But one thing he didn't mention is the women's side of it. I don't know that anybody else can offer all inclusivity for wrestling, whether you're a kid, a teenager, high school, professional, female, it doesn't matter. Oklahoma State has everything you need to become an elite level athlete, Olympian level athlete. The whole sport of wrestling is growing, and this actually is a really good time for Oklahoma State to get back on the climb up because people are actually paying attention. There's more eyeballs on the sport. And, it's funny, a few years back, I don't know, probably a decade or so ago, it was completely different. Every now and again, seeing a girl on the mat that could hold her own. Now you go to a wrestling tournament, there's tons and tons of girls wrestling the dudes. And now that it's grown to the point where you have actual girls divisions and you have girls wrestling other girls, and they're taking it seriously. I mean, look, we got Coach Roper, and Coach Roper's wife, Becca, was instrumental in some of the female wrestling that was happening at Iowa. Right? So the all-inclusive thing that Oklahoma State provides should, in my opinion, boost cowgirl wrestling from a club-level ordeal to an actual recognized event. And, of course, there's a lot more that has to happen, but make this a realistic thing. If we're the only ones that can provide from 5 years old to 20 years old to 50 years old to producing the best female wrestlers as well, we're going to get back to being the juggernaut of the sport, which we 100% deserve. Speaking of deserving, Cowgirl basketball has a Team USA representative. Not a big surprise here, right? J.C. Hoyt has done a very good job raising the expectations, raising the bar. She mentioned it in a little excerpt the other day. They do have new expectations. The old days of Cowgirl basketball, kind of being okay with some good years, those are kind of gone. We made adjustments on the staff. Congratulations, Taryn Hoyt, on getting an upgrade here. And congratulations on Staley Hurd going to represent. Not only does the Choctaw, Oklahoma native get to be one of the best players in all of the Big 12, now she has the opportunity to represent Team USA across her chest. Obviously, this is a massive honor, but even more importantly, it puts a magnifying glass on an Oklahoma State basketball player. A basketball player that is from the local area. So the storylines kind of write themselves there, but it's also validation, in my opinion, that A, J.C. Hoyt knows what she's doing in recruiting, and B, she's very good at keeping the relationships necessary to have these girls stay in Stillwater. Stay with her, obviously, a Team USA member. She could go anywhere, and she could get almost probably football level money or almost men's basketball level money somewhere. But because of J.C. Hoyt, what she has built, she's decided to stay loyal and true. And now we're going to have an opportunity to make a run in the NCAA tournament. The only thing that killed us in the tournament was lack of rebounding. What has Coach J.C. Hoyt addressed since then? Center that rebounds. Power forward that rebounds. Another forward that rebounds. She's got 2 of the last 3 bigs, forwards, or centers that she's brought in have like led conferences and been top 5 in the country in rebounds, blocks, things of that nature. So she recognized a weakness that we had that got exploited in the NCAA tournament, and she said, I'm going to fix it. She has fixed it. So now she is right. The expectations do climb. Making a tournament is not super sufficient this season. Yeah, people get bounced out of tournaments. We get that. But they should have the talent to make a run, and they should have addressed the rebounding issue that was slightly perplexing at times during the course of last season. We talked about Natty number 55. I don't think it's going to happen in women's basketball, but if J.C. Hoyt keeps making moves like this, we're eventually going to have this conversation of, can J.C. get us to the Final Four? She thinks she can. She's working on it. She's getting closer. Hopefully it can happen soon enough. Speaking of soon enough, I got to get on the road to head to Omaha to both help coach some baseball, watch some baseball, and hopefully catch a little bit of the Arizona Wildcats representing the Big 12. Had a baby AZ. West Virginia just, kind of ran into a buzzsaw. It is what it is. But Arizona, they knocked off a top 5 seed. That's one of the darlings of the season. So they're riding hot right now. Obviously, what they did Big 12 tournament speaks volumes. So represent the Big 12. I will be there in person to catch some Arizona Wildcat action. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State, because you could be anywhere. Very happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. But podcast people out there, you're everything that makes this work, right? The bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, funny stuff, funky stuff, all of it. You know what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. Later, taters.